5, which is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Text 10. Brahmanyajaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti ya lipyate nasa papena padma param ibambasa. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here, Brahmani means in Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total manifestation of the three modes of material nature, technically called the pradhan. The Vedic hymns, Sarvam Hi Tat Brahma, Mandukya Upanishad 2, Tasmad Etad Brahma Nama Rupam Anang Cha Jayati, Mundaka Upanishad 119. And in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 3, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma indicate that everything in the material world is a manifestation of Brahman. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are none different from the cause. In the Upanishad, it is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that therefore everything is to be engaged in the service of the Lord, naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. Even one's material body, being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action, can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is then beyond contamination by sinful reactions, exactly as the lotus leaf, though remaining in the water, is not wet. The Lord also says in the Gita, chapter 3, text 30, Mayi sarvani karmani sannyasa. Resign all works unto me, Krishna. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses, but a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in the service of Krishna. Text 11. Kayena manasa buddhya kevala indriya api yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva sudaye. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When one acts in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sat achara, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:2-187 describes this as follows. Ihayasya hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikalasyapi avastasu divan mukta sa uchete. Translation. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. He has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is this material body or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Text 12. Yukta karma palam tyakva shantim apnuti naistikim ayukta karma karnena pale sakto nibhadyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The difference between a person in Krishna consciousness and a person in bodily consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person, and he has no anxiety over the results of his work. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the results of an activity is explained as being one's functioning in the conception of duality. That is, without knowledge of the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane, that they are transcendental and have no material effect. One is therefore filled with peace in Krishna consciousness, but one who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. That is the secret of Krishna consciousness, realization that there is no existence besides Krishna in the platform. It's the platform of peace and fearlessness. Text 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasa chate sukam vasi navadvare pure dehi neva kurvan nakarayan. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. The activities of the body, or the figurative city of the body, are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates. The 9 gates are mentioned as follows. Nadare pure dehi hamso lilayate bahi vasi sarvasya lokasya swatarsya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of a living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 anus, and the genitals. The living entity in its conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord even while in this body. Sweta Swatar Upanishad 3:18. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and the inner activities of the material body. Text 14. Na kartrivam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karma phala sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or natures of the Supreme Lord, but is distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior of the Lord. Somehow, the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with material nature since time immemorial. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as a living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be master of it, but actually he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. He is simply in the midst of a material ocean struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. Text 15. Nadate kashachit papam nateva sukritam vibhu agyane navitam gyanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu, or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires, but the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is a constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the super soul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul. as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare, Esha Hiva Sadhu Karma Karyati Tam Yam Evyo Lokebya Unistate. Esau Eva Sadhu Karma Karyati Yam Ado Ninishate. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. Kaushitaki, Upanishad 3:8. Similarly, the Mahabharata Varna Parva 31:27 states, Agyo Jantur Anishoyam Atmana Sukha Dukhayo Ishvara Prerito Gachet Swagam Vasha Brahm Evacha. Translation. The living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutras 2:1-34 also confirm this. Vaisamya nagriniye na sapek shavat tatvat tata hi darshayati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, although he appears to. Text 16. Jnanena tu tat agyanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham aditya vajnanam prakasayati tat param. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Maybe this is the last one. Purport. Those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Jnana Plavena Jnanagni Sarvakarmani, and Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna, as is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse. Bahunam Jnanmanam Nano Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. After passing through many, many births, when one perfect in knowledge surrenders to Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, everything is revealed to him as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience or Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is, for Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nations as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be full in knowledge that he is not this body, but is transcendental to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the supersoul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect, bona fide, Krishna conscious spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when actually, let me start over. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has the knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in the second chapter, text 12, that every living entity is individual and that the Lord is also individual. They were all individuals in the past, they are individuals at present, and they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in the darkness, but in daytime, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. And I apologize going over a good 3 minutes or so. Started reading before I needed. I saw where we were at. The last one. Okay. Hare Krishna.
It's all special. Thank you, Pariksha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
If any devotees want to ask any questions, or if they'd like to reflect on something that they learned today, we can. One thing, Pariksha Prabhu, I was going to ask you to maybe elaborate on is this: the concept we started with, the first verse. It compared the activities of a Krishna conscious person, like a lotus leaf that is in the water, but yet water doesn't affect it.
Yeah.
We also hear this concept, to be as a God conscious person, you're in the world, but you're not of the world or affected by the world. Maybe you could just comment on that. How do we practically execute this, where we're in a material world, we have material bodies, but yet we're supposed to be untouched by this material energy?
Well, Hare Krishna, very good question. We do things with our senses, the working senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, and so on, as is described. We do things with those. Now, we are in the material world. We cannot deny that. But mentally, when a person has gotten the mercy of a spiritual master and now been put in the right consciousness that he's not the body, then the activities of the material are, yes, they're still there, and one has to perform them in order to keep the body going, because the soul is inside the body. But the understanding should be, I'm not really connected with this because that's not my true nature. My true nature doesn't connect with material nature. As a matter of fact, I'm not even from here, I'm from the spiritual world. But temporarily, due to my envy of a Supreme Personality of Godhead, we know that now from the spiritual master, the teachings of the spiritual master. We are here for a period of time. So our actions should always be, all right, I am stuck with a situation for this lifetime that involve material activities. Therefore, I must do them, but I won't relate to them. Mentally, I will relate to Krishna. I will relate to Krishna. And if I do anything that's material, I should do it only as is necessary to maintain the body. My own, if I have a family, the bodies of my family, if they're directly connected with me, especially if I'm a parent, children are taken care of, and devotees to help them as much as we can from our hearts. But apart from that, the wonderful thing is now we have the association of devotees. And therefore, what we should use the association for most is to remind each other about Krishna. and Krishna is transcendental. Krishna is about the spiritual. Therefore, if we relate to Krishna, we automatically aloof from what's material. So basically, all this is we should have the consciousness that we are not of this world. We are stuck here for a period of time. And based on how we act, we are going to be liberated, especially if we act in the spiritual. So we do what's necessary to take care of the material. And then what's important is the spiritual. We do that. So our consciousness should be that way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Pariksha Prabhu.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
Mother Renika, you had your hand up next.
I'd like to let Vatsala Mataji go first, and I'll go last.
Okay, we might not have time. We only have
She's
3 minutes.
yielding.
No
That's
worries.
wonderful.
I'll give up my spot. No worries. I'll let Vatsala Mataji go first.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhu, humble
Hare
pranam.
Krishna. Jai.
And
God
glory to
Shri
Srila Prabhupada.
God Shri
Thank
Prabhupada.
you, Prabhu. Very nice class. Always I get a lot of, information and a lot of thinking from
Shri
this class.
Prabhupada, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
And I was just wondering, the last, I don't remember exactly what verse it was. It says that Lord Krishna does not like or hate anyone. But on the contrary, we say he, like a Prahlad story, Dhruva stories everywhere. And he loved them and he wanted to help them. He wanted to show his darshan and he was trying to protect him. And I also heard in several, readings that Krishna would come for your rescue. And also you can bind him like a Mother Yashoda was binding him. Even though he is a supreme personality of Godhead, he was being bound by the love of Mother Yashoda.
Yes.
So how do we understand that either he doesn't like anybody or does he hates everybody? I mean, I don't get this. How are we supposed to understand this?
Hare Krishna. Very good question. Very good question. Excellent questions, one after another. So Krishna, let me just describe the way Srila Prabhupada described it. Krishna as a super soul, Paramatma. He's the one that's connected with us inside where our souls are. Same place. Our soul is in the heart, super soul is in the heart. Now, Krishna doesn't hate, Krishna doesn't like, in the sense that we are given the freedom to do whatever we want. We cannot blame Krishna or give Krishna credit for what we do. That's the first point. In other words, Krishna has a disclaimer all the time. You do what? If it works out okay with you, the karma from it is fine with you, you may enjoy. And if you do negative things and the negative karma comes on you, it's on you. It's not my fault. So Krishna knows, and it also says that Krishna, it takes Krishna's permission for things to happen because he owns everything. But since the living entity in the material world wants to do what they want to do outside of Krishna's instruction, then Krishna says, all right, so now if I love this, or if they want to do whatever they want to do and I don't permit them, they can blame me. Therefore, all right, even if they don't realize that I'm behind everything, let them do. Let them do. But at the same time, Krishna has made Krishna consciousness available for those who want to turn to that. So then we have that choice. We have that choice. So if we're fortunate enough for Krishna consciousness to change our mind and our intelligence to look towards Krishna consciousness, because now we understand that is the process by which we go home. And we also understand that we are in a suffering condition here, and therefore we should get out. Then at that point, Krishna says, yes, this person is headed the right way back to me, where the real happiness is. Therefore, I should encourage. That's the only time he gets in. When you yourself, as an individual, have decided, I'm going to Krishna. But then if you go to material energy, he says, sure, material energy is also mine, but I'm going to beat you up there, though. You have to be ready for that. And if you don't understand it, being beaten, at some point you realize, hopefully you realize this is a bit much. I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been in the male body, I've been in the female body. God forbid, sometimes I spent time in a non-human body. All of this Where did I get to? Birth, difficult. Death, difficult. In between them, old age and disease. What to give me? And then my spiritual master tells me, and all the Shiksha gurus tell me, but this is not your home. There's another home, Krishna says. Real home, where you won't have any problems at all. Now, as soon as you hear that, no anxiety, then intelligence kicks in. What should I do? Maybe I should learn what it takes to get there, which is exactly what those of us that are hearing now are doing. So then we are told, chant Hare Krishna. This is the Yoga Dham. So we go, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Because we've come to the right consciousness, I've got to go home. And nothing here is going to make me ultimately happy. Hare Krishna. So,
Okay.
5:30 something. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Very enlivening. It's always great to hear from Srila Prabhupada and his purports, and then especially his devotees to
Absolutely.
elaborate on it further.
Krishna's mercy.
Benefited from this this edition of our happy hour. It's Friday, so that means we got the weekend coming up. We have a couple of things going on this weekend. Starting tomorrow morning, we have our Japa Reform program. It begins at 7:30. Please come at 7:30 to ready to chant Japa, the same Zoom channel. And then we do a little reading, different prayers and reflections by devotees on the process of Japa, chanting the holy name on beads. And then we have our Sunday evening program, our Sunday feast program, our virtual Sunday feast program. This week, we have Her Grace Mother Sudevi. She'll be giving the talk on how to get free from our karma. So we're studying the second chapter in a detailed way. So that's the topic for this week. So please tune in for that. Both of these are offerings from devotees in the community for our benefit and our upliftment. So we look forward to seeing everyone throughout the weekend. And if not, we'll see you back here Monday at 5 o'clock.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parikshit.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
For
Thank you.
allowing me to do the service.
Thank you,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Vaishnavevyo namo
Namo
namo.
Namo. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, and I forgot to mention for all the ladies out there, we have a Vaishnavi class tonight, a Vaishnavi Sangha. That starts at 7 o'clock. So please tune in for that. To all the